Good morning, church. Hope you're having a good start to your day. Appreciate you tuning in. And we're going through this series of Philippians, looking at the joy of the Lord. Talked a lot yesterday in this new section. This is really the last section, but we started a new section, the last part of chapter 1, with our circumstances that we deal with and looking at this spiritual battle that we're in and keeping just a focus on the fact that we're in a war and the Christian life is not a playground, it is a battleground. And we don't always see it that way. But at all times, we're always fighting against the devil's fighting against us, and we have other enemies as well that we know of. But we are in this thing and fighting, really encouraged here in this section, striving together for the faith of the gospel. That really is the thrust of this section as Paul is looking at his battle, trying to serve the Lord, but not just by himself. Even though Paul did a lot, he accomplished a lot as a missionary, Paul is never by himself. He's by himself now in this jail cell. But from the very beginning, he had a team with him. It was Paul and Barnabas in the beginning, and then later on Paul and Silas. But even though we read about those pairs, there was always a team around him. Timothy would come along later on, and Tychicus and Trophimus and Demas and all these different ones, and Luke, the physician, traveled with the group, and these different ones that went around. It was a team effort. This was not just a one-man band. And that really is the next part that we want to focus on. Yesterday, we looked at consistency and living a life that's consistent with the gospel here in Philippians 1:27. If you're following along with us, he says, "Only let your conversation be as it becometh the gospel of Christ." You want your lifestyle, your conduct to be fitting and representative and well representative of the gospel message. And that's our duty. But then he goes on. He says that whether I come and see you or else be absent, I may hear of your affairs, that you stand fast in one spirit, with one mind, striving together for the faith of the gospel. So the imagery in the first part of that verse was that of battle and really representing the Lord in kind of like an ambassador. You almost have like a political feel to it. Our citizenship is in heaven. We know that. We're in other passages that we belong to heaven and we want to represent our Savior and our country well, and spiritually speaking. And so you have kind of a political flavor. And then he kind of shifts things to that of athletics and really uses some words here that talk about viewing the Christian life in an athletic way. The phrase there, striving together, is a word in Greek that actually means a co-athlete. The word actually we get our word athlete from this expression, and the word striving together, the expression striving together, means to be a co-athlete with somebody else. And so he's picturing this thing as like a team effort, that we're not just doing this by ourselves, we got other people around us. I don't know if you ever played sports. I played sports when I was younger. I love sports growing up. I played football and I got to coach baseball later on. I loved wrestling in high school. That was my main sport, and loved it. It was so great. And I grew just in many different ways through wrestling and just hard work and gutting things out and just learned to work hard and not quit and just a lot of different things. Good character building and just learn how to push through. But wrestling, even though you're on a team, it's very much an individual sport. I mean, you go out on the mat and it's just you against the opponent. There's nobody else around you. Nobody can help you. It's you against the opponent. And so though you have teammates around you encouraging you in the practices and they're cheering you on during the matches, you're just out there by yourself in a wrestling match. Other sports aren't like that, though. Most sports are team sports. And you play football or you play baseball, and there's so much coordination and there's so much of relying on your other teammate next to you and somebody being in their place, blocking or doing their part to help for you to do your part. And if that person doesn't do their part and they're not in their place, then you end up suffering, or vice versa. If you're not doing your job, then your teammates suffer and the whole team goes down. And there's that camaraderie and that teamwork effort. And if you've ever been a part of it, you know what I'm talking about. And that really is the idea that Paul's conveying here. And he's talking about cooperating with one another and learning to work together. He says there, that I may hear of your affairs. And he says, I want to hear back that you guys, you Philippian believers, that you stand fast in one spirit, one mind. So there's unity, one spirit and one mind. There's one direction, all working together unanimously in unity, the same spirit, the same mind, going the same direction, but striving together for the faith of the gospel. So this team effort. Ministry can be really awesome. And ministry is the sweetest when everyone's on the same page and everyone's going in the same direction and everyone's working together and everyone's helping one another because we have the same goal, we have the same aspiration, we have the same motive, and we're going after the same thing. It's great when that's the case. It is absolutely miserable when everyone's doing their own thing. And I've really been on both sides of it. I've been in different ministries throughout the last 25 years of my life, and God's put me in different venues. We've had some wonderful, wonderful experiences through the times and different places that we've served. And it's the sweetest when you're working alongside believers that you share the same vision, the same burden, the same passion, and you have a burden for souls. You have the same goals in mind. That's a wonderful thing. There is certainly a joy that comes from serving together in that sense of cooperation. But I have had a few experiences where it's not always that case. And it's hard. It's a difficult experience when you have people that rise up. They have their own agendas, they have their own goals, they have their own plans. They don't want to work with the team. They don't want to work well with others. They want to just kind of be off to their side and do their own thing. That is not the biblical framework and the biblical structure that God gives us for the church. He wants us pushing forward. We do read about some times in the New Testament where this was an issue. You read in 3 John 9 where Diotrephes, he loved to have the preeminence. This guy, we don't know who he was, but some guy in the church that John has to deal with, he has to address. He says, you guys are wonderful. You're wonderful saints. We love you. And we know that later on, the Apostle John pastored the church of Ephesus. He may have been writing back to that church. I'm not sure. But he's writing in 3 John, and he addresses this issue of this fellow by the name of Diotrephes. And the overwhelming characteristic of this guy is that he loves to have the preeminence. That is, he's got to be in the limelight. It's got to be all about him. He has to be having the applause. He has to have all the attention. It has to be all about him. It's all got to shine. We've seen people through the years. They have a lot of talent. Talent can be a wonderful thing if it's yielded to the Lord. Talent can be a horrible thing when it's all about the person just flaunting their talent. Look at me. I'm the best thing in the world. I'm awesome. And everybody's standing out of the way for me. It ain't all about you. It's about Jesus. And if you have to be the center of the attention, then you make everybody else miserable because nobody wants to be around that. And I've seen Christian people that act that way. They think that they're God's gift to whatever gifts they have. And like God should be impressed with how much talent I have. That's pathetic to be that way. There's no joy in that. You have no experience of joy being that person or anybody else around that person. I guarantee one thing: nobody's experiencing joy when that's the case. We think about the disciples. Boy, the disciples had their struggles. When Jesus is laying out to his disciples, he's going to go up to Jerusalem. He's going to be crucified. He's going to be going through all these different things, and he's going to give his life. And then as soon as he's done saying that, you have James and John and their mom coming to the Lord saying, hey, how about you making my boys, second in command when you get up to heaven? I want one of my boys to sit on your right hand and the other one to sit on your left hand. And the disciples are like, are you kidding me? Here's Jesus telling you he's about to give his life, and this family is all concerned about what they're going to get out of the deal. That selfish attitude, that motivation of it's all about me, cuts against this idea of cooperation and working together. Because ultimately it's not about me, it's not about you, it's all about the glory of God. And so we got to maintain a spirit of cooperation, working together, striving together for the faith of the gospel, learning to understand that the whole reason we're here as a whole local church, as a New Testament local church, our purpose of being here is not for one person to get the attention or somebody else to get the attention, is that the gifts and talents and abilities that God has blessed each member with, that those members learn to step into those gifts and learn to utilize those gifts for God's glory. And when the church can harmonize in that and go in the same direction with one spirit, one mind, it is a beautiful thing. And joy is just overwhelming and abundant. When you get cliques in the church, you get divisions in the church, you start having all kinds of chaos and all kinds of nonsense. And the devil has struck a very, very deadly blow when that's the case. And so understand that that's going on. When we're in this battle, we're talking about this battle that we're in, this spiritual war. This is definitely a tactic of the devil coming at the church, trying to get us to, instead of working together, be at each other's throats and fighting against each other and pushing for attention, all these different things. So learn to identify that. Learn to spot that. If you battle that in yourself and you feel pride well up inside you, like you have to have attention or whatever that may be, try to spot it early. Try to deal with it. Try to give it to the Lord and say, Lord, this is wrong. I shouldn't be feeling this way. And give it over to God. Confess it as sin. And look to find ways to work together. Some people, they just don't, it's not natural to work together. I understand that. Sometimes it can be very difficult to work well with others. You know, that old expression, you're filling out different descriptions of different people. Do they work well with others? Not everybody does. A lot of people struggle working with other people, and I can understand that. But it's a beautiful thing when the church works together. We are co-athletes striving together for the faith of the gospel. And when we do that, it's a beautiful thing. God gets the glory and the praise. Souls are saved. The body of Christ is edified. And one major thing we experience is joy. So I don't know what you're doing today. I don't know what you have in store for your work or your school, but wherever you're going, I hope you'll take these thoughts to heart. And I hope you have a wonderful day and catch us tomorrow on our next broadcast. We love you. God bless.